Is hunting ethical? Today, we're going to talk about the ethics of hunting. Let's get to it. Hey, Joe McLean here from CatholicHack.com, where I live my life for God, and I am passionate about traditional archery. In fact, I think it was 2011 when I got the trad archery bug bite, and I've been slinging arrows in my backyard ever since and beyond. And so if you like videos on trad archery tips, tricks, reviews, anything like that whatsoever, conversations like this on trad archery or hunting, then do me a favor and click that subscribe button, even that bell notification icon, so that you can be alerted on the very next video that comes out. I would be super grateful for that. Well, today we're going to talk about the ethics of hunting. This is a topic that I have been wanting to discuss for quite some time. In fact, I actually shot some video when I was hunting, sort of talking about this, but the video didn't come out very well, so I kind of canned that. But now I have an opportunity. I'm sitting in front of my computer. I'm going to do one take. This is going to be awesome. We'll see how it goes. And we're going to talk about the ethics of hunting. You see, I've been approached on several occasions on Facebook, Twitter, Google, things like that, where people will come to me and they'll say, how could you kill God's innocent creatures when you can just go to the grocery store and buy it? I mean, it's just so wrong, hunting. Well, I mean, I want to talk about that. I want to kind of break that open and sort of discuss that from a sort of a practical standpoint, a Christian standpoint even, and a bow hunter's standpoint. I'll talk about that at the end. But, here's the thing. Is hunting ethical? The answer is going to be yes. I mean, hopefully you'll, at the end of this, if you didn't agree before, hopefully you'll see some information maybe that you didn't understand previously. That's the goal anyway. But you probably have an opinion on this. Hey, do me a favor, leave your opinion in the comment box below. All I ask is that we be civil, right? We don't have to agree on everything, but if you have a comment, don't go crazy off the shelf hating people, right? Just leave your comment below. It's great to have a civil conversation. I mean, we sort of lost the art today to have civil conversation. So I invite you to that in the comment box below. That would be super cool. So the other thing is I'm a full-time Catholic evangelist, right? So I run a Catholic radio station. I travel and speak on all kinds of issues related to the faith, chastity, and pornography addiction. I've written a book. I've been a part of other books. I've got tons of content and material. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? So when people see me posting content online about hunting, they get kind of more heated than normal because I should be a Christian who loves animals and doesn't hate them and doesn't kill them, murder them, right? That's kind of the idea, which is why they'll say to me, how could you kill God's innocent creatures when you can just go to the grocery store and buy it? I mean, I've heard that on many occasions. So let's talk about that. Okay, let's first start talking about that from the perspective of the separation between the way we live and the way our food is prepared, right? There is a big separation. We walk into the grocery store. We go back to the cooler where the meat product is, whether it's a big, beautiful, thick piece of steak, right? Or maybe it's some pork chops, or maybe it's some poultry, some chicken, or whatever it is. We somehow, some way have rationalized our life into seeing that as nothing more than food, and therefore we forgot that was an animal at one point that lived and breathed, and someone had to kill. Someone had to shed its blood so that it could be there, sanitized and pretty, so that you can buy it and you can eat it. You see what I'm saying? There's a separation between the way we live and the way our food is prepared that somehow isn't right. There's some downsides to it. Not so with the hunter. The hunter kills an animal and has blood on their hands. The hunter understands that the animal has to die. The hunter has to, field dress that animal and butcher that animal, or pay someone to butcher that animal and take that meat and then consume that meat or give that meat away or donate it. Because, by the way, many hunters actually donate their meat to organizations that will take that and feed it to homeless people and hungry people. Happens all the time. It's an incredible, incredible thing. Many people are being fed because hunters care enough to donate. So that's a cool thing. But the hunter understands that where that meat comes from and how it gets there, how it's prepared, what needs to happen in order for that to happen. Just somebody walking into a grocery store and buying meat, it's like out of place, out of mind. I mean, they got bills and busy lives and kids and work and stress. And I mean, there's just so many things in life that they've somehow forgotten what it means to take an animal, slaughter it, shed its blood, butcher it so that you can eat it. We're so far removed from that. So the animal still dies, but you're just letting someone else do the dirty work for you. You see what I'm saying? Not so with the hunter. That separation is not quite as far for the hunter as it is for the rest of mankind. I mean, look down, look around. Do you have a leather wallet, a leather purse, leather shoes? Do you have a leather couch, a leather in your car? I mean, do you have a leather wristband? I mean, what do you have? Do you have a leather jacket? I mean, you probably have all kinds of products in your life that are made from animals, right? Well, that was an animal that had to die. It had to die so that you could have those luxury items. You see what I'm saying? Okay, well, how does an animal get the gig of being God's innocent creatures in the forest or being not God's innocent creature in the shopping mall? I mean, the grocery store? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like the animal can't choose where it's born, right? So they're all God's creatures. We're called to be stewards of creation. All animals are in the animal kingdom and part of God's creation, and as humans, we're called to be stewards. But part of the issue is people who don't care for hunting, or they think it's not ethical, or they think it's wrong, is they see animals as equal to humans because they think of us as being just another animal. Well, I don't know if you feel that way or not, but it doesn't really matter. But the reality is, animals and humans aren't equal. We're simply not. Now, that can be realized in natural law. I don't have to quote scripture and verse to you. I don't have to show you what it says in my book of beliefs. Listen, in natural law, in just the order of nature itself that every human being can observe no matter what they believe, it's clear that animals and humans aren't quite the same. We are an order above them. Because we're an order above them, we have the responsibility to be caring for them, to be stewards of the animal kingdom, not disrespect them, not abuse them, but to be good stewards of them. And hunters do that. It might sound crazy, but hunters care enough about animals to be good stewards. How can I say that? Well, listen, it's hunters who are providing the vast majority of the conservation effort in the wildlife communities, right? So it's hunters who are paying for the care of wildlife themselves and their habitats because it has to be managed. If you don't manage the wildlife or their habitats, diseases spread, starvation sets in, predators become too heavy, and they start wiping out whole herds. It's hunters working hand in hand with state and governmental authorities in order to manage those animals and their habitats. We care enough to want to do that. Now, there's always unethical people in every segment of every community around the world in any topic. You can't name a topic or a community, a segment of humanity, and not find some bad eggs. It's just the way that humans are. So even in the hunting community, there are hunters that aren't ethical. They don't follow the laws. They poach. They do illegal activities. That doesn't mean that all hunting is bad or all hunters are bad, right? Just because there's bad eggs. The vast majority of hunters are ethical, they follow the law, and they care about animals. They're good stewards. Now, you may have seen like where the hunter shot an animal and they're holding like the rack of a deer or something, or an elk or a moose or something like that, or the head of a bear, whatever it is. And they're just like, they're on cloud nine. They're just jumping for joy. They're super excited. And you think that's so sad that they're rejoicing when the animal just got murdered. That's what you're thinking sometimes, right? Well, you're seeing a small sliver of that whole experience. That hunter worked hard to get to that point. In some cases, they might have spent a lot of money, but the point is they worked hard. They put a lot of effort in. They relish in that one moment where God provided for that, right? There's a bountiful harvest. Now, some people don't like the word harvest. It is a harvest because we're harvesting the animal to provide for ourselves, for our family, and for others, right? So that's a harvest. Just like I would harvest corn, I harvest the animal because it feeds my family. And you're never going to find more healthy, meat than free-range animals. I mean, whether the deer especially, very lean, very healthy, very good meat. I mean, much better than the stuff you buy in the store. It's great stuff. It's healthy. It feeds and takes care of my family when I'm good enough to actually, harvest the animal. Because again, I'm not a very good hunter, but I'm trying. I'm working hard. But that hunter understands that. That hunter gets that process. That hunter works hard for that harvest. And when they have it, it's a celebration. Which brings me to another point. Because I'm a Christian, and because I'm an outward Christian, I love my faith, I love God, I live my life for God, even I shoot my bow for God. People are like, sometimes they freak out because how could you kill, the innocent creature? How could you be so happy about its death? Well, like I just said, it's a harvest. So they'll say Jesus wouldn't have been happy about that. But that's not true. Listen, I don't know if you're a Christian or not or whatever. It doesn't matter because if you were to open the Bible, go to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis is the first book in the Bible. Go to the third chapter, go to the end, before Adam and Eve are kicked out of the garden because they fell from grace. They sinned. Thank you, Adam and Eve. God killed an animal and used the skin of that animal to cover their nakedness. It's the first slaughter sacrifice of an animal in Scripture, and it comes at the hand of God. Well, you can just keep going through all of Scripture, all the Old Testament. You're going to find animal sacrifice after animal sacrifice after animal sacrifice, and animals being eaten, and animals eaten, and animals eaten. That doesn't mean they hate them. That doesn't mean God is the God of wrath. None of that nonsense. Listen, you're never going to find a Scripture in the Old Testament or even the New where hunting or the consumption of animals is painted in a bad light. It just doesn't exist, right? Even look at Jesus. Now, Jesus grew up in a time in first century Jerusalem where he would have attended the Passover feast every year. For 33 years, he would have gone to Jerusalem, and he would have witnessed there the slaughter of a tremendous, hundreds of thousands of lambs would have been slaughtered every year at the Passover. I think it was, I can't remember if it's the Talmud or maybe it's Josephus, but one of the ancient Jewish works describes that there was a pool of blood up past the ankles of the priest working in the temple slaughtering animals. That's how much blood there was. Jesus witnessed this every year his entire life until he was offered at the Passover feast there in Jerusalem. And yet never does Jesus criticize the killing of the animal or the eating of the animal. In fact, Jesus himself provides fish to the disciples. He commands Peter to put out in the deep, to cast his net over the side. And Peter brings up such a haul of fish that it nearly sinks the boat. And Peter himself goes crazy over this. He sees this haul, this harvest of fish, and he gets on his knees and says to Jesus, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Peter recognizes the divinity of Jesus in the haul of fish. Jesus isn't sad about the haul of fish. Peter isn't sad about the haul of fish. There's no one sad about the haul of fish. That fish was food for people to eat. They were being stewards of the animals. Those animals were providing for those disciples and the people around. You see what I'm saying? It's all these examples in Old Testament and in New Testament where Jesus is not sad, or anybody in the Old Testament wasn't sad at the death of the animals. That doesn't mean they hated animals. That doesn't mean they loathed animals or they disrespected them. They're stewards of them, and those animals have a place and they have a role in their life. And so that separation between the way we live our life and the way we eat our food and prepare our food was not nearly as far back then as it is today. Today we walk into a grocery store and we see that beautiful piece of meat on that platter and we go, steak, it's so yummy. But we forget about the cow that steak used to belong to. See what I'm saying? Now, last thing, because we could go on all day about this. The bow hunter's perspective. When I picked up my bow and I decided I was going to go hunting with it, it hit me. It wasn't lost on me that animal would have to die. For me to be successful, an animal had to lose its life. And I made that resolution then and there. that I was going to shoot my bow and practice and practice and practice and work hard because I wanted to put my arrow where it needed to go in order to make a clean, ethical kill shot. And that animal, which was going to give up its life, I was going to join it in that process by giving it all of my possible effort. I was going to respect that animal's sacrifice by working hard. Hunters feel this way. Hunters act this way, at least the ethical ones. I mean, every hunter I know, they work hard. I mean, you go to a ranch, the first thing they make you do is sight your bow in, right? They want to see you shoot that thing. I mean, you're paying money there, but they want to see you shoot. They want to know that you're not going to be out there shooting all like some cowboy off the hip, like Rambo from back in the 80s, where you're just shooting off the hip and making bad shots. Nobody wants to wound an animal. Nobody wants to see an animal suffer. They want them to be clean, ethical, good shots, right? Hunters, ethical hunters, feel that way. They work hard to get that harvest moment, to feel that adrenaline rush, to feel that joy of the Lord's provision for them in that moment. And when you see them celebrating in that moment on a video here on YouTube or some other place, realize you're only seeing a sliver of the entire process. You weren't there for the month after month after month they were shooting their bow, arrow after arrow after arrow into their targets, practicing in the nighttime, in the early morning hours or late in the evening hours, or just honing their skill, working on that moment when they would be able to harvest an animal because they wanted to do it right? They're going to celebrate and they're going to enjoy it, but they wanted to do it right. So is hunting ethical? Yes, hunting is ethical. And when hunters shoot and hunt ethically, it's a good thing. When hunters don't, it's a bad thing. Good hunters, and the vast majority of hunters are good, are the ones providing for the care and keep of animals in wildlife and in their habitats. That's the deal there. So you know what? I understand if you've never hunted before, how that could be a totally foreign concept. But trust me, you should visit a slaughterhouse sometime and see how the animals, the chickens, the cows, all those animals that we buy those products in fast foods and restaurants and regular restaurants and upscale, doesn't matter. Cafeterias, your house, wherever it may be. Those animals lived and died, and not always in great conditions. The animal in the woods had an awesome opportunity to escape and evade. Trust me, at least with me. So, you know what? Next time you go in the grocery store, remind yourself that an animal had to die. Someone had to have blood on their hands so that animal could be slaughtered, harvested, and cut up and put on a package so that you and I could have food and dinner tonight. See what I'm saying? Hey, listen, I get it. It's a difficult conversation, but if you got an opinion and you're willing to be an adult about it, I invite you to leave a comment below. We can have a great conversation about it. If you want to just go off the rails and, you can still leave a comment, but if you're really off the rails, I may just delete it. But you know what? Here's the deal. The more interaction, more engagement this video has, the more people who are going to be seeing it. So haters gonna hate. You may still help me get this to a bigger audience anyway. But I'm praying for you that you shoot straight, and I hope you pray for me that I shoot straight. And until the next video, may God richly bless you. By the way, I broke a bowstring at full draw this week. Yeah, I posted a video on the channel. I'll link to it below. You could probably check it out somewhere around here. But listen, it was shocking, this bow right here. I am super lucky that I didn't break the bow. Don't do what I did. I paid no attention to my bowstring. I could have avoided this. I am super lucky to have gotten away without being hurt and without breaking the bow. Don't you make the same mistake. Check your bowstrings. You know what I'm saying? Hey, listen, God bless you. Keep shooting.